Now let's move on to this. A blatant and arrogant abuse of South Africa's military by the ANC. That's how the governing party's trip to meet Zanu-PF in Zimbabwe has been described by opposition parties here. Now, the party says the defence minister gave the ANC delegation a lift to Harare this week while she was on her way to perform official duties. And as Govan Whittles reports, it claims the meeting was in the national interest.
It's the presence of ANC leaders who hold no government positions on an SANDF flight that's caused an uproar. It's unclear if they received the necessary permission to leave the country.
It seems like there's been no approval being sought or being granted. Furthermore, other South Africans that flies abroad back into South Africa must go into quarantine. That seems not to be applicable to the ANC. So there's a lot of integrity that has been compromised.
But the ANC maintains the trip was in the interest of South Africans.
Once that board of Beit Bridge in Zimbabwe collapses and everybody can decide, people are going to blame us as the ANC for having done nothing. But equally, for taking the lead and being preemptive, we are still being blamed. So I think there's nothing wrong that we have breached to pick up a lift, because we're doing that not for personal gain, but for national interest as a governing party.
Defence Union Sandu says the Defence Act allows the minister to take a delegation of politicians to official meetings, but they do require authorization.
You have to sign an indemnity, towards the state, and there has to be documentation in place authorizing specific individuals with a specific purpose in mind. Whether those authorizations were obtained, I think that's the question that the public should be asking.
The DA has called on the president to investigate the defence minister over the trip, and the Public Protector's Office has confirmed it's considering whether to investigate a complaint by AfriForum and the Freedom Front Plus. Govan Whittles, Johannesburg.
Well, for more on this, let's speak now to Wayne Duvenage of Outrage. That's the organisation undoing tax abuse. Good evening, Wayne. So the Defence Minister is allowed to use the SANDF jet. She had SADC business on a ministerial level. This ANC delegation essentially caught a lift. You could actually argue that it was a bit of cost saving. What are your concerns?
No, not at all. This is not cost saving. First of all, we need to question whether the minister needed to be there. Why wasn't this meeting conducted through electronic means, as was done just over a month ago? One doesn't need to fly around the country, especially with the SANDF in the current financial distress that it's in, run up costs like that. So we're questioning whether this trip was actually necessary or whether it was done in a manner to enable the ANC delegates to meet with Zanu-PF. One can't argue that there's any saving there for allowing other people to hitch a ride, because what happens is government is setting a precedent now. So when the next time a military jet needs to fly to other parts of Africa, does this now allow the EFF or the DA or other political parties to say, hey, we're also keen to go up to those parts of the world, so can we hitch a ride with you? So they've set that precedent now. You cannot allow political parties to gain access to state funds that are used for business of the state, and that's it.
I've just been told by my producer some breaking news, in fact, that the president is now asking the defence minister for a report on this flight, which suggests that perhaps there is more to it. You know, we did hear the Defence Union actually coming out in support of this flight, saying it didn't seem to be such a big deal. Yes, there's certain things that needed to be signed off, but essentially Pekakirev seemed not too bothered by it. But what is your response to this breaking news that the president is now asking for a report into this?
Well, that's excellent, and what we're saying as well is that civil society needs to have oversight of that report or sight of it. We would like to know exactly what was the purpose, who did she meet, are there minutes of that if it's not confidential information, but there needs to be a purpose, and I think we need to make it very clear that there's no grey area when it comes to the rules and the laws regarding state funds and state asset use like this. So we look forward to seeing what does come out of this report, but everything we've heard so far is just excuses. This is smoke and mirrors, and the ANC themselves have seriously transgressed the the rules, and they need to be held accountable.
You know, the ANC delegation was saying that, yes, it's an ANC delegation, but they were going to meet another former Liberation Party, which of course is also the governing party, that's Zanu-PF in Zimbabwe, that because of that party-to-party relationship, they felt they had sway to perhaps persuade the governing party in Zimbabwe to do the right thing. So essentially what the ANC is saying is that they were actually acting in national interest. We're not looking at a situation with a family coming over, landing at a Defence Force airstrip for a wedding, for example.
That is absolute nonsense. These are just excuses, you know. If they want to meet with them, there are many ways to meet. You can have your discussions party to party. Political parties may not participate in matters like this. They can bring all the excuses they want. It's not allowed. They can charter another plane if they want, get the permissions from the transport minister. They can do Zoom discussions with the ruling party of Zimbabwe. The ruling party can come here if they want and have those discussions. But what the ANC did on state-funded flights of the military is absolutely abhorrent. It's not acceptable, and they cannot make any excuse for this. We don't buy it.
And I just want to read you the statement that is coming through to us from the presidency this evening. The president calling for a report on the Air Force flight to Harare. He's directed the Minister of Defence, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, to furnish the president within 48 hours, so that's a quick turnaround, a detailed report on the circumstances that led to the minister sharing a flight to Zimbabwe with a senior ANC delegation. He notes the public discussion, this is the president, that it's been generated around this flight. The minister had permission to travel to Zimbabwe to meet her counterpart to discuss defence-related matters. So the president saying that he signed off on, that was actually allowed. In the interest of good governance, the president has directed the minister to provide a report within 48 hours to set out the circumstances around the flight. He welcomes the interest by South Africans, says it's an indication of the nation's vigilance against allegations of improper deployment of public resources. And that's really the issue, isn't it, Wayne? That in a country where we have so little money and we're spending so much on repaying debt, and we're seeing fences going up for 40 million rand on our border that are absolutely useless, what we don't want is a waste of money in this regard.
Absolutely. We can't afford it. So the first question is, was this trip really necessary? I mean, how urgent and how serious was this meeting? Could it not have been done in other ways? Government is not demonstrating when they behave in this way that they are mindful of the state's funds and the precarious position we are in as a country with our financial situation. So every rand counts, you know. We cannot have this behavior. So first of all, even if she went on her own, there would be questions about was that trip necessary. Then to take along a delegation of political players is just, you know, we have to set the boundaries very clear, and they are clear in law. You cannot do that. It's unacceptable, and some serious accountability now needs to take place on this. This cannot be just swept under the carpet as a bit of oversight and yes, we won't do it again. We need serious accountability to take place.
Thank you very much. Wayne Duvenage of Outrage, the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse. He's not happy with that flight. And just to recap, of course, the news just in is that our president wants a report from the Defence Minister within 48 hours on that flight and the decisions taken around it.